You are listening to GMR Radio. And now, the Great Movie Radio Show.
All right, everyone, quiet on the set. Places. We've got a show to make here. Is Chris ready? Yes. Okay, everyone, in 3, 2, 1, and... Coming to you live from sunny Orlando, Florida, it's the Great Movie Radio Show, a movie talk podcast starring Chris Schneider.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Great Movie Radio Show, or as Gabe likes to call it, the Great Movie Radio Putt-Putt Golf Water Park and Tiki Bar.
You know it.
Gabe Jaramillo has rejoined me for episode 6, the return of the movie radio show. When we get to episode 8, it's going to be the last movie radio show.
Hopefully not.
And then episode 9 will be Duel of the Radio Shows, or the Rise of the Radio. I don't know.
Rise of the Radio.
Yeah, Rise of the Radio Show. We're going to have some fun with it. I should put the Star Wars theme at the beginning of each one now and just redo the intro that Mr. Fesky has so graciously made for us. So we talked last episode about going around the track and some of your favorites. We're actually going to touch a few different movies that you have mentioned to me this episode. Some movies that are beyond your favorites, that have inspired you, that you really love. Some soundtracks that you adore. Some movies you haven't seen, and then a question I haven't asked on the show yet. My wife actually gave it to me the other day. She said it would be interesting, and I said, I should try it. And that is a movie that you dislike. Or maybe one that you went in with very, very high expectations and came out with that sucked, pretty much.
Kind of like all my first dates before Michelle.
So, yeah, we'll not talk about that. We won't touch that. So, a few movies, and I asked for a couple of movies that inspired you. You actually just listed Jim Carrey films.
Yes.
And that is way more than 5, but that is okay, because he has done, and he's been hit or miss with more recent pictures. But
well, I mean, I think his, more recently, he's been more, I don't know the way to describe it, besides open-minded, and he's very
trying new things
and seeing the world, and exposing the entertainment industry and stuff like that. And it's a different Jim Carrey than we're used to, and I think he's trying to stray away, because I feel like this Jim Carrey, I realize he's more of a method actor, and he really has to jump into his films, which I appreciate, and that's awesome. But
I haven't seen many of his newer things. The one I want to see is a show he actually did. It looks very Mr. Rogers-ish, but very
darker.
Like he's slowly going crazy or something. And I forgot if it was just called Funny, or I don't remember what it's called. I have to look it up. But it looked phenomenal, and he looked like this happy-go-lucky, TV host that was kind of like on a children's program. Oh, Kidding. That's what it was called. Kidding. And it looked great. And I want to see it. And, of course, he's going to be Dr. Robotnik in the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog film that my fingers are crossed. That
Here's my thing. And you've probably seen the memes before and stuff. But they spent so much money to redo Sonic the Hedgehog for us, because the first version
one looked like
so creepy.
Have you seen the one that they made him look like Gull?
Oh no, I just feel like we owe it to them. And some people are like, it was a stunt. They did that on purpose to get attention. But still, they spent the money and they listened to the fans.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that's rarely done nowadays, especially with fandoms like Sonic. My first system was the Sega Genesis.
Exactly.
I remember playing Sonic 1 and 2 and Sonic and Knuckles.
There's
I'm excited for it. Jim Carrey's in it. It's Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'm not going in expecting an Oscar award-winning performance from the Hedgehog, but we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be a fun movie. Mm-hmm. And the kid who played John Ralphio in Parks and Rec, is playing Sonic, the voice of Sonic
Yes,
Hedgehog.
yes.
I remember back in the day, I had one of those little Tiger Electronics handheld games.
Yeah.
And I had one of those that was Sonic the Hedgehog. Not just
Yes.
I had a Genesis for a little while, but I had the little tiger that they did Aladdin and all sorts of Lion King and those.
And it was just a picture in the background, but then it was like black
screen.
outline, and you just move around.
Those things I think I had a Power Rangers one too, which I know you would adore.
Yes, they did.
You probably had one.
Oh, I did not.
Oh,
but my friends did. Hello, friends.
I know you love.
You want to hang out? No, I just want to hang out with your Power Rangers.
But Jim Carrey, he's done so many good films. The Mask, which we talked about last episode. Ace Ventura, we talked about last episode. I loved Man on the Moon. I was a huge fan of SNL growing up, and learned about Andy Kaufman and that whole odd situation that he put himself in through his comedic career. And then they had Jim Carrey come in and play Andy Kaufman, and of course Danny DeVito had worked with him on Taxi, and they replayed that whole, or refilmed that and recreated it for the film.
And I'm pretty sure didn't that lead to like a documentary about?
They did a Netflix documentary. But Jim Carrey not only played Andy Kaufman in the film, but while he was filming, he was Andy Kaufman, and that's what the documentary was about. Was him diving into the role so much of Andy Kaufman of being while he was filming, and so like the Tony Clifton fake persona that Andy Kaufman had created during his comedic career. Jim Carrey played that character too, and so he was acting like Andy Kaufman the entire time, and it really pissed off the cast and crew filming the movie. But at the same time, they admired his.
That's just, like I said earlier, he's a method actor, so he's always on when he's in a role. And I mean, I don't know about all of his films, but I think after that documentary, somebody did like a joke video of him being Method as the Grinch, because obviously he did the live version of the Grinch, and him like being the Grinch offset and all that stuff. But I just respect him all around, and even more so now, like seeing stuff like that. I'm like, man, he's not only funny, but he's like intelligent. He's like painting now too.
Yeah,
and I'm like, if I was rich, I'd buy one of his paintings.
I remember, I still quote a couple of one-liners in the Grinch movie that I rewatched it, and it's funny. It's not as good as I remember it being as a kid, but there's still a few one-liners, because it's Jim Carrey, and he's always going to deliver the one-liners.
Yeah, for sure.
When he's ripping the shirt, and he'd stop me before I kill again. That part I always chuckle at. And then somebody says something to him, and he doesn't understand, and he's like, holiday hoobie wuddy. Anytime I'm like out like at work or something, and one of my team members like asks me a question and I don't hear what they said, I'll be like, holiday hoobie wuddy, and I just think to myself, did I really just say that?
See, I go to the cliche, the one-liners everybody knows. And he's like standing in front of the mirror, and he's like, ooh, ah, ooh, that's it, I'm not going. Or he's like, dinner with myself, I can't cancel again. But what will I wear? Like
he's just. Even in the bad movies he's done, he has been a wonderful, silly man that I've loved all my life too, and so I understand. Dumb and Dumber.
Oh,
Samsonite. I was way off.
Bird. Yeah. No, but it's funny because I put Jim Carrey films. I didn't put all of them because I really.
You love him as an actor.
I know. Oh, no. I love all his movies except for The Cable Guy. I hate that movie.
You hate Cable Guy?
I can never finish it. And I'm like, I don't think it's funny with Matthew Perry. I'm like sick to Friends, and but if for some reason I just never enjoyed that one. I love all of his other movies. Grinch, Ace Ventura.
Of course, he was in Batman. Was it
Batman? Because Jim Carrey was the Riddler that Halloween. I went as the Riddler, and I did everything I could to try to get a flat top. But being a Hispanic male from South Florida,
a picture of this if you have it, put it on the GMR page.
Yeah, maybe I'll text my mom like, "Hey, do you have any photos?" She's like, "Sure, yeah, they're next to your baby teeth." And I'm like, "What?
No,
gross."
Oh, I've got to see that because if you did the hair as much as you could,
I as much as I could, but like I said, being a little Hispanic boy in South Florida, my hair didn't really stand up straight like a flat top. But I tried. I had the cane and everything, and I would spin it around at school and acting like whack kids. And
I've grown to love Jim Carrey, and even when he did Kick-Ass 2, and that was pretty good role for him. And
spoiler alert: when he died, I was so upset.
Oh yeah, because he was trying to save the others. I haven't watched that one in a minute. What else has he done? Mask we've already talked about.
Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty. No, the Truman Show. I really liked that one.
Yeah.
It had silly moments, but it was a little more serious, more of a drama, but it had its comedic elements to it. I remember when you did that horror one with Number 23.
Oh yes.
And that really, when I was younger when that came out, and I thought it was a great film, and it doesn't hold up as much now, but it was an interesting take on. The idea was definitely interesting. I'm trying to think of other things he did. Yeah,
Liar.
Oh, Liar. The pin is royal blue.
Me, Myself, and Irene. He even made an appearance on one of my favorite TV series, The Office.
And
after,
and of course we got In Living Color when he started on Living Color.
All of his
the
skits.
fireman. I forgot what it was, because that's what he was, like one of the firemen on there. That was.
He's so great.
Wonderful actor. Cable Guy I haven't seen in a while, so
I think I've maybe tried watching it 3 times and I just gave
struck out.
Strike 3.
So American History X is next on your list, and that is one I definitely haven't seen, but I know about it. That's Edward Norton.
Yes, it's a very, very powerful film. It pretty much just follows Edward Norton, and he's in jail, and he talks about a story how he used to be like a white supremacist and stuff, and how his time in jail he changed, and they just and they touch on the whole like race and racism and stuff like that. And I just remember like watching the movie for the first time, and I was like, holy shit. And it's unfortunate because although that movie was made, I think with like it was made in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, it was 1998 or 90, and it was 98.
98. Yeah, so even then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there's definitely like race, like you could still see it now, and it's like, but I think the message behind it, how he changed from being like white power, like he had Nazi tattoos all over him,
because he was trying to prevent his brother from becoming what he was.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets out of jail and does all that, and it's just.
And
it's one of those like
kid that played Connor in Terminator 2, actually.
Yeah. And I don't remember his name, but one of the guys in his like clan was a bigger guy from Boy Meets World, like the bully.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in that movie too.
I do remember Edward Norton getting nominated for an Oscar for that role. I've never seen the picture. I know enough about it to have.
And then like the cinematography of it's great too, and it's a very powerful film, and after I watched it, I'm like, wow, it's one of those where you're like people can change, and opens your eyes a little bit. But then that goes into the next one I have in there, Stand and Deliver.
Stand and Deliver with Edward James Olmos. That came out in '88. I remember that movie.
I remember exactly the first time watching that movie. I was watching it at home, and it was a school night, and I was like 7 when the movie started. I watched it, and at that time, my mom was like, "Your bedtime is 8:30," and I'm like, "Okay." And 8:30 came, and I was like, "But mom, the movie's not over." She goes, "Okay, because it's this movie. Once it's over, then you could go to bed." And I was like, "Okay." And it's just like he's in a low economy school in California, and he's like one of those teachers that believes in his students and is teaching them mathematics, and he's like, I think you guys are better than what the school provides for you, and just another one of those like powerful messages in just a different way, not so much racism, and you have
be better than you think you are.
Yeah, exactly, and I just think those are good.
I love Edward James Olmos too. He was in Blade Runner, which I've loved him in, and he did the Battlestar Galactica sci-fi series remake that was fantastic. I've always loved him.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Hispanic and you're listening, he was Selena's dad, and Selena.
I was gonna say he was a Selena.
Anything for Selena's. Yeah, that movie makes me cry every time. I'm not afraid to admit it. I was on the break room one time, and I was waiting for Jennifer Vasquez, and she's like, "I'm just gonna change really quick in the bathroom." I said, "Okay," and I looked up at the TV. I said, "Jennifer, the end of the movie's coming. I need you to hurry up and get out of here." And she took forever, and by the time she came out, I was already crying. She's like, "Are you crying?" I was like, "Yeah, the movie."
Anything for Selena.
Anything.
Don't you have a shirt that says that?
No.
Oh,
I wish.
I thought you did.
I don't think I've ever seen like a shirt that says that specific scene.
Something at Target or something like that.
Maybe.
I thought you had it. I don't know. But the one you have on here is biopics. So you're a huge fan of biopics.
Yeah.
And I saw back in your drama list you loved the most recent Tom Hanks' Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood as Mr. Rogers.
Oh, I cried 5 times in that movie.
It was a fantastic film.
It was so good. But like, not only that, there is Notorious. I'm a big hip hop.
I haven't seen that one yet.
That's based off Biggie.
Oh yeah,
that's a great one.
What did you think of Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody?
I didn't see Bohemian Rhapsody, and I know it's on HBO, and I keep meaning to watch it, but busy schedule. I saw Rocket Man, and I loved it. I blew it away. I was like, I don't want to see him in concert, but of course, if you've seen the movie at the end, he's like, yeah, he's not doing tours anymore.
Well, he's doing his final tour right now. I think he's going to come back through town one more time before he wraps it up.
I will do my best to try, but I'm sure those tickets...
I realized seeing that movie that I loved a lot more of his music than I knew I did.
That's what I love about like music biopics, because you're like, oh yeah, I'll watch this movie about this artist, and then you're like, wow, I forgot how many songs I knew. And music being your drug, it's great.
Well, I actually my theater played because Michael Hutchence killed himself in '97, and there's been, I guess, a recent resurgence in his historical means. We played a 1990, I think it's 92 or 93 concert when NXS played Wembley, and it was a sold out show, and it was like the second biggest show after Live Aid or something. I don't remember all the details, but they were playing NXS at Wembley, and it was a fantastic concert. And I was like, I don't recall knowing as many. It wasn't a biopic, they touched a few behind the scenes things of the show, and then there was a later documentary about Michael Hutchence's life, and so they touched, it was called Mystify, that we played a couple weeks after, and it touched the life and times of Michael Hutchence going through NXS, and he did a little solo time and did another band for a hot second. And like you said, I didn't realize I had known as many songs of NXS that I did, and there's, had a great career back in the 90s before he sadly took his life, because he was a wonderful musician. They're from Australia.
Yeah.
I love NXS.
I think I love the musical ones a little bit more than like Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Amazing film. But the musical ones, because you have that like nostalgia and then you start remembering stuff. And what I think is cool is they've also gone from making biopics to using that nostalgia aspect of music into like movies like
What about Saving Mr. Banks? Like, that one had a lot of musical mentality because of the Mary Poppins.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, so if you love Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, you will love Tom Hanks as Walt Disney. And then Emma Thompson plays the writer of Mary Poppins, and it's Walt Disney trying to coerce her into allowing Disney to film and adapt her book.
I want to see it. It's one of those movies. So it's been sitting there on my list, and I see it all the time. And for some reason, I just head back to the office before it goes. But and like I was saying earlier, like the music and taking and not so much doing a biopic, but turning into a movie based on stuff. And they do that on Broadway all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I just came from New York 2 weeks ago, and I saw
Beetlejuice, right?
I saw Beetlejuice. I saw Jagged Little Pill, which is based off
Alanis
Morissette's music, and it was interesting, and it's like so clever and smart how they take those songs and turn it into a story. And you're like, how do those, like literally before I was like, how are they going to take all those songs and put it into a show and make sense? And it does.
I loved I didn't get to see it on Broadway. It got on YouTube somehow, but I'm a huge fan of the movie American Psycho. And that hit Broadway for a hot second. The guy who played Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
He played Patrick Bateman, which was Christian Bale's character in the movie American Psycho.
Do you like Huey Lewis in the news?
Yeah. And so he was wonderful, and the musical had a very great '80s vibrant feel to it, and just like the movie did, but more musical. The musical was pumped up, and there was more of the '80s feel, and I loved that they turned this, thriller slasher movie that had an '80s backdrop and kind of brought the 80s backdrop more in the front and center part. And so you had a lot of 80s. The songs were a couple of different hits from the 80s that the cast sung, and then there were some that were written for the show.
Yeah.
And so like the thriller slasher part was a little taken back a little bit. You know, that was still part of the main theme, but your 80s music was your front and center. And I really loved what they did with that movie on a musical sense. And I don't watch a lot of musicals.
Yeah,
but if I had a chance to get to see that one on Broadway, I definitely would have.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great film.
And I feel like they're doing that a lot too, because they're doing
it with SpongeBob.
They did that with SpongeBob. That's, if you haven't heard the soundtrack or seen it, it was on they aired it a couple weeks ago on Nickelodeon.
I heard about that,
and it's a great musical. I just saw Beetlejuice on Broadway. That was amazing. And then next month in Liverpool, they will premiere the Back to the Future musical.
They're doing a Back to the Future musical.
Yeah, and it's going to be there for 8 weeks, and then after 8 weeks, it's going to move to London to the famous West End Theatre, where it's going to do its run there. But
they try to go see it.
Maybe honeymoon, Back to the Future musical. Who knows? But yeah, I follow on Instagram. But it's cool when they do that stuff. Like, that's how powerful some movies are. That they're like, how can we like keep telling this story? And like, musical's a great way. It's like a movie, but on the stage,
elevated a little bit.
It's a live action movie.
Exactly.
Live
action movie live.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that movie. Welcome to the live action movie live. No, I completely agree with you. And I like I said, I don't watch a lot of musicals. You're probably more into them than I am, but I understand how they elevate certain aspects that film can only deliver on a screen.
Yeah,
where you're doing everything live. That's just the joy and wonder of theater overall. Honestly,
I think that's why it's my favorite. Like, I will say I love movies so much, but theater is just, I think the live aspect and the intimacy that you get from a live performance rather than a movie is great.
Because what happens in the show generally is the same, but sometimes the characters, the performance and the portrayal comes off differently every show. So every show you get something different, but it's still the same at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what's unique about it.
Let's go!
I do also love that a lot of orchestras are now bringing movies to their symphonies, and they're playing the music live. I've yet to go do one of those, like Harry Potter or Star Wars. I'm waiting for a Lord of the Rings one, because I'm a huge fan of Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings scores. Like, they're so wonderful, and probably one of my favorite soundtracks of all time would be Howard Shore's Lord of the Rings trilogy. So if I could ever find just an orchestra that plays them, or like plays the score with the movie. I remember getting to see him play with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra when I was a kid after the trilogy came out. He conducted the ASO when I lived in Georgia as a child, and they played songs from all three, and that was one of the moments where I knew I wanted to do something with music, which, I sadly, it never panned out. I tried a few things, but I never got to complete my journey in that. But it was something I wanted to do, and that's why I love music so much, is moments like that. And I really want to go into one of those, watch the movie and we'll play the score behind it. And I feel that live format just brings something else. Like you were saying with music, exactly. And you're getting it right there, and so you're watching the emotion of the orchestra play it while it's playing. And like you said, with theater and musicals, where you're getting that live performance, that raw energy, you get that with the same. The cinema aspect is still there, but you're still getting a little bit of that raw energy from the orchestra.
It's kind of like bringing back the olden times of the movies where they would play the movie.
They play the piano.
No, it's yeah. But I know what you're talking about. I really, and I keep missing it every time. But I want to see like the Pokemon one.
They're doing a Pokemon one.
They've done it before.
Oh, okay.
And they've done all the different games and stuff, and then now they're remastering the Mewtwo Strikes Back in CGI, which is an interesting choice. But
did you see the Detective Pikachu movie?
I did. I loved it.
I thought it was wonderful. My wife and I recently watched. I think it's on HBO.
Yeah,
that's how I watched it. We streamed it, and it was it was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And a little predictable, but very fun, and
in a good way.
It was probably the best live-action video game movie that's been made.
Oh, for sure.
In a long time, if not at all.
I don't know what you're talking about. Jean-Claude Van Damme in Street Fighter? That was amazing.
Oh, God. I haven't seen that in so long. The Mortal Kombat movies, too.
Oh, God.
Maybe I need to have you back on to talk about video games and film. That might be a fun one.
Yeah, well, look here. We sure do hope you're enjoying this episode of the Great Movie Radio Show, starring my old partner, Chris Schneider. Don't none of you hombres move while we's on this break. We'll be back in just a moment.
Warning. Remain on this podcast. The advertisement you are experiencing is extremely dangerous. Proceed with caution.
Woo! You've been listening to the Great Movie Radio Show starring Chris Schneider, which means you hit the mother load. Don't forget to stake your claim by hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss another great episode of this Movie Talk podcast. See you on the trail.
We're going to go drive into some of your favorite soundtracks, and Baby Driver's at the top of your list. Bell Bottoms, damn! I have that soundtrack on vinyl, and let me tell you, Baby Driver was badass.
So I will admit this, I'm not as big into scores. Like I could hear them, but I don't like dissect them, and I can't pick them up, I would say, as much as you do. But that movie, the way they like edited and sliced everything was like to a T. They made the sound and the action going on to the point where he has like, it's like raining or something, and there's windshield wipers, and it's going along with the beat.
The music.
I was like, if he doesn't get the Oscar, then it's rigged. It's rigged.
Okay. Baby Driver was directed by Edgar Wright, and he has done some wonderful things for film and TV. He did an old TV show called Spaced out of England with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, who then went on to do the Cornetto trilogy with him, which is, of course, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, my favorite of the three, and The World's End. And then he's done Scott Pilgrim, and he did Baby Driver. A lot of people think that he was involved with Paul, because both Simon Pegg and Nick Frost did that. He wasn't there in a directorial capacity, but I'm sure he was around because they're buds. He just finished a new movie, One Night or Last Night in Soho. That's going to be coming out later this year. And then, of course, he did a Baby Driver. He was supposed to do Ant-Man with Marvel. He had written Ant-Man. They were starting to film, creative differences. He backed out, and then the guy who did Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp came in. I can't remember his name. But I have always been a fan of Edgar Wright since I saw Shaun of the Dead. And if you watch his films, did you see Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah, I love that
so you
movie.
know how Baby Driver had that feel to where the music was involved. With the film, it was like that with Scott Pilgrim. And in some cases of the Cornetto trilogy, it was the same way with that. And I've done a lot of reading on Edgar Wright. He is really big on the musical side of his movies, like really big on them. And when I wanted to do film composing or be involved with film, that was something I wanted to do, was be really involved with the song that goes into the film at the certain points, and its involvement where like what you're seeing is actually, you know, matching the tune of the song, or like what he did with Baby Driver. I love that. I love when those two things come together so with such synchronization.
Yeah, it's great because it sets like the tone and the energy. And when there was a lot of action going on, it was a very just like high, intense. You're like, and then like your heart's racing. You're like, yeah, drive away, go fast. Oh my God, you're so great. How did you do that? I can't even park my car right.
Well, I love that Baby, the main character in Baby Driver, he had the headphones on, and he couldn't do what he did without music playing. And that's really what drove that soundtrack to be as epic as it was is because you're in the head of Baby with him. You're laughing.
If you've seen the movie, obviously.
Of course.
So I don't know why, but you were like, oh, the headphones and it's Getaway, and all I could think about is the scene where they're robbing the bank with Jamie Foxx, and they ask for Mike Myers' mask, and he gets Austin Powers' Mike Myers mask, and he's like, what the hell? I said Mike Myers. He's like, yeah, Mike Myers, Austin Powers. When I remember, I like lost it when that happened. And
That's a great moment. No, he's always been good on comedy too. Now I love his movies so much. The Cornetto trilogy. My bachelor party was actually themed on the Cornetto trilogy, so I hold Edgar Wright in very high regard of my cinematic journey throughout my life. So I appreciate everything he's done. Baby Driver was a piece of cinematic brilliance, and I love that soundtrack so much. That
was one of those movies that I left and it said, the minute it gets released on Blu-ray, I'm grabbing it.
It's been a minute.
Just don't do it in your car because it could get dangerous.
Oh no, I do. On I-4 and bumper-to-bumper traffic. You know, here's this, bruh, I'm sitting here. I've been here for 10 minutes. We haven't moved an inch. Just want to go on the shoulder. Home Alone is your next one, and that is a movie I haven't seen in a long time. Even, the Christmas season's out. I just haven't watched it in a while.
Well, it's on the Disney Plus now.
What?
It's on the Disney Plus now.
Yeah, it is.
And like I just love that score because, like thinking back, you're like, oh, those are very like Christmas songs and stuff. But then when the action starts, they take the Christmas and they're like, here we go. It's like this action scene, and it's just a very interesting way they took that and took a spin on it. And I think that's just like really cool to me because then, like we were talking about earlier, it just very sets up the energy, like. When the clock strikes and he's like running through, he's like, oh, I got to set everything up because they're about to head over and try to rob the house, and I got to protect it because my parents were terrible and left me in the house.
Action Christmas.
Right, exactly. It's no Die Hard, but
Oh, Die Hard.
Another great Christmas movie.
Like I said, I haven't seen Home Alone in a long time, but I remember loving it, and I remember how wonderful Macaulay Culkin was fending off the Sticky Bandit or the Wet Bandits.
The Wet Bandits. The first movie. Sticky Bandits in the second movie.
That's right. And just all the little pranks and knickknacks he threw together to like fend them off. It's a wonderful film.
They fended off a gangster and Joe Pesci.
There you go.
And
Daniel Stern.
Yeah.
I love. Yeah. I remember I had a talk boy when I was growing up too.
Oh, jealous.
I did. I used to record. I don't know if I was recording music on the radio or I was just talking to it like a stupid little kid and listen to myself be an idiot. I did have one, and that's a movie I need to go revisit. It's been a long time, and there are a lot of great Christmas movies out there, but I think that one might be on my list for this coming year.
It's just one of those movies that even though it's like a Christmas movie, like you pretty much enjoy it like all the time.
No, Christmas.
No,
I'm kidding.
Wow, Grinch and taking it back to Jim Carrey over here.
Stop me before I kill again.
Noise.
We're gonna talk about Men in Black. We talked about that during Sci-Fi and our Around the Track. And you are a huge fan of that soundtrack, Big Willie style. And here comes the Men in Black.
Here comes Men in Black. No, it's just great because I can't pinpoint it, but I don't want to say simplistic because it's not, but it's a very just like basic soundtrack, but also like Danny Elfman just throws in like all these like futuristic kind of sounds. But not like so much like Daft Punk, like with the Tron Legacy. It's not like that, but it's very just like like
it was very like 1950s science fiction alien movie.
Kind of but with like a modern twist.
Exactly.
And it was like so good, and even just like the intro, you're following that dragonfly, and all of a sudden just Chris Pratt on the front of the car.
But very Burton-esque. Compositions almost, and Men in Black had a very Burton-esque oddity to it. And like I said in the last episode, Barry Sonnenfeld really delivered that weird but awesome, as we said,
for sure,
tone. And to be able to mix that with the hip hop element with Will Smith, and of course, I love the part where they're sitting and they're driving the car and they're going through the tunnel upside down, and Tommy Lee Jones is listening to the cowboy music and he's bopping his head, and Will Smith is like, "What is happening?"
And he's like trying to like stand up. And...
well, because he didn't buckle in, and Tommy Lee Jones he's headbanging to the music, like having fun driving on the top of the tunnel. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Great.
But it's a wonderful film, and you said you haven't seen the third one because you thought the second one was okay. I highly recommend seeing the third one.
I'm gonna have to go back through and then jump over to the theater and see International.
No, it just was
just kidding. No, great. We'll cut that part out.
I think it's on. No, it's been on Blu-ray for about a month or two now. It's on Stars right now. So if you have Stars streaming, I think it's on there. That's how the wife and I just watched it. And like I said, it was okay. It wasn't like... it's about... 2 wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. International wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. I think 1 and 3 are probably the best. 3...
No, like Jurassic Park.
3 really elevate... Well, Jurassic Park 3 is... Oof.
Oh, see, that's where we'll disagree. I loved it.
I need to rewatch it.
My ranking is obviously Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World, The Lost Kingdom, and then you just go down the road, and then finally you see Jurassic Park 2.
I need to rewatch 3. The only reason I own it is because, I try to collect all of them if I can.
Yeah.
But Joe Johnston, who directed my favorite movie, The Rocketeer, did that movie, and I remember not liking it much, but maybe I just need to rewatch it because... Maybe I will like it more.
Not a lot of people
been a while.
Like it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's like Back to the Future 3.
Yeah, I tried to give them a chance, though. So we are going to talk about now 5 films you haven't seen, or just a few films you haven't seen if you had enough time to watch them. There's some great ones on here. I've seen 4 of them. Your top one I own, but I haven't seen. I think a buddy of mine just gave me a stack of DVDs, and it was on there. Almost Famous.
Yeah, I hear so many great things. And
same.
There's been times where I'm like, oh, it's on, let me watch it. And for some reason, again, it's one of those movies that just slips on by. But everybody's like, well, you haven't seen Almost Famous? You need to watch Almost Famous. And it's one of those, I'm like, all right, I guess I need to watch it. And I thought of this the other night because we were at a restaurant. It's like Rock and Brews.
Oh, yeah.
And they were playing it was Elton John's Tony Danza, just kidding, Tiny Dancer. And but it was like, it looked like, I feel like it was a video from the movie because I was like, wait, I think this is Almost Famous.
Well, when Rocket Man came out, I think one of the department stores like Walmart or Target, I can't forget who, it was like you buy a copy, you get a free digital copy of Almost Famous with it.
Oh, okay.
Which I almost did, but I had the DVD, so I was like, nah, I don't need it. But I hear it's a wonderful film, and it's one I need to see. And I love Rock and Brews, too. You said that. I was like, oh, yeah, I love that place. They have a good tri-tip sandwich. Public Enemy, you haven't seen it yet.
I have not. I've not really had the chance. I had the chance once, and I was at the airport when I was dating a girl who lived in Texas. And I was waiting, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And then they changed our gate, and then I just never went back to it. But it's one of those, it's like, that's the very famous gangster movie. It was in the Great Movie Ride. I feel like I have to watch it.
It's a wonderful film, and it's a short movie. I want to say it's like an hour and 10 minutes, if I remember correctly. It was on TCM recently, because I have the app on my Fire Stick for TCM, because I like to go back and watch a lot of classic movies that way. I own the DVD of Public Enemy, and I was going to watch it that way, and then I saw it was streaming, and I didn't want to get up and grab the DVD, so my lazy self, the ease of streaming services has taken over. But, and I had the DVD, and I think it was like upscaled to HD a little bit, where they could with the old movie, so I was like, a little better picture quality on my TV, so I'll take it that way. And, wonderful film. Cagney just rules that movie and owns every part of it he's in. I highly recommend it. And the the grapefruit part where he takes the grapefruit and puts it in her face. You just see because that was not scripted at all.
All improv.
And you watch the look of disbelief when she's like, he just did that. And of course, it's like the early days of film. I can only imagine. They're like, we're keeping that for the movie. No, take that out. It's wonderful. Wonderful little improv by Cagney. And I love his last stand where he enters this club and just goes in and just big shootout. You don't see anything. You just hear a bunch of gunfire and him walking out defeated.
So yeah, I've seen the grapefruit and I've seen that scene where he comes out. And,
he's standing in the rain's coming down and he's just drenched and he's like grinning but also like dying. And wonderful movie. 2 of the 3 are also mom movies. The Irishman, Netflix's.
I was so hyped when I found out about this movie, especially with Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I was like, man, this is going to be a great movie. And then it dropped, and everybody's like, it's 3 hours. And I said, man, I don't have time for that.
I actually found a nice way to watch it. If I had the 3.5 hours to sit down and do it all at once, I would have. I didn't have the time. It dropped during the holidays. It was right before Thanksgiving. And so I was able to watch an hour and a half before work one day. And it was a nice stopping point, literally like an hour and 28 minutes, hour and a half. And then I was able to watch the remaining 2 hours the day or two later. And then there was a 25 to 30 minute roundtable documentary with Scorsese and the 3 main guys. And
I keep hearing from people that there's like something online that says there's a way to watch it. So it's like a mini series, so you could break it down into like little episodes. So you don't have to sit down and watch it all at once.
You should do it like that then.
I mean, I could, but
I'm surprised Netflix hasn't cut that up because I know they cut Tarantino's Hateful Eight into a mini-series format, which they're going to do with more because it's an extended cut. Yeah, Hateful Eight, not the main feature. The main feature you can watch it, but I still want to go back and watch the extended cut mini-series thing they did because I like that they're doing that with the streaming mentality that people watch in chunks all at once, or take an hour, take a break, watch another one, take a break, and it allows people to be able to watch more of these features in their own time.
For sure, and I mean, I think it's smarter to do that on streaming services because, man, I had to pee halfway through Endgame, and I was like, nope, can't do that.
Let's get the Infinity Gauntlet Cup and take it with you.
Gross.
A Beautiful Mind, wonderful film. Jennifer Connelly, Russell Crowe. I loved every aspect of that film. I remember it's been about maybe 10 years since I've watched it. It came out in 2001, and Russell Crowe's a mathematician. And
yeah, but he has like a mental disorder, right?
Yeah,
like he sees
kind of, sort of.
The reason this came back up to like fruition was
he's like antisocial or whatever they call it.
Yeah, this actually I took psychology last semester. And my professor talked about this movie and like showed us clips, and I was like, man, I still have not seen this movie, and I've heard nothing but great things about the movie and his acting and just everything about it. And it's like one of those movies I was like, you know what? And he sat down and watch it.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if he was like working for an organization to like help them crack something but he kind of like loses it a little bit because, the pressure of trying to do this out there.
From what I understood, he worked at a college and he was a college professor, but one of the people he imagined, I think like worked for the FBI or something. And they were
I think he started like...
And then there was like this little girl that like was also his best friend, and I don't know. It seems very interesting.
Yeah, because you're looking in the mind of a genius who's also having an illness at the same time, and just a look into the title, Beautiful Mind. So,
he said it.
I said the thing.
He said the thing.
And then The Departed, which that movie has been mentioned on every single episode that I've done so far. And Scorsese's brilliant work with such a wonderful cast: Jack Nicholson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon. Wonderful, wonderful cast, and just a twisty story. If you want a very good modern day mob movie, and I want to say it was set in Boston.
Oh yeah, no, it's
set in Boston, and it
parked the car in Harvard Yard.
Tap.
I said park the car in Harvard Yard.
I didn't do it. Holiday Hoobie Woody.
Near Fenway, Dunkin' Donuts. All the stereotypical Boston.
There's nothing wrong with Dunkin' Donuts.
No, I know, but it's in Boston,
I know it's from Boston. So I highly recommend seeing that one. I don't talk about it much because I haven't seen it in a very long time, and I don't remember too much. I remember it being brilliant, but at the same time, I also
you see a lot of movies.
Some things go down that you don't wanna ruin too. And like I said prior, I'm not one that likes to ruin things. So the new question that we haven't asked on an episode yet is a movie that you have highly disliked or you were highly anticipating and were highly disappointed by. And you told me that you really were upset with Ang Lee's Hulk movie from the early 2000s with Eric Bana. And I think everybody who loves the comic book movies can agree with you that movie was...
garbage.
Yeah.
As the French say.
Well, politely, the French say. Garbage.
No, I just, like, there was no MCU yet, and there was, like, no, like, this big plethora of superhero movies and stuff. So anytime, like, a movie came out, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, and you're like, yeah, and then it came out, and you're like, this is awesome, except for the third one. Yeah. But then this came out, it's like, oh, the Hulk, that's a different person, great. We had, I'm pretty sure Fantastic Four came out before it with, like, Jessica Alba and all that.
I want to say it was near the same time.
It was around the same time,
yeah,
roughly, where a young Chris Evans as
the original Fantastic Four came out in 2005, and then Hulk came out, I want to say 2003.
Yeah.
So it was right before Fantastic Four.
But, that movie...
Blade had came out by then.
Blade, great superhero movie.
Blade, yeah, that was 98.
But I just remember starting, I was like, all right, cool, and it was like, start off slow, which is nothing wrong about that, because sometimes it's nice to have, like, a slow movie, and then, bam, it just, like, hits 100, and you're like, oh, crap, this is awesome. But it just, like, started off slow, and then I just kept getting lost, and he wasn't turning into the Hulk, and it was, like, 40 minutes into the movie, and I'm like, when am I going to see the Hulk? This is garbage. I'm out. And left.
You left it?
Yeah, I went back and said, I can't watch this anymore.
Wow.
And I mean, I was younger at the time, but, like, now I try to stick it out. But that was one of those movies I just walked out and asked for a refund. I was like, they're not getting my money on that.
There's quite a few. I remember one, I sat through the whole one, and I thought it looked good, and then I saw it, and I was like, this is horrible. This movie, I went with a couple friends, and I think I talked them into seeing it, and I feel bad about it, and I still remember it's called Runner, and it was Ben Affleck, and I think Justin Timberlake.
Oh,
and it was like, it was mid 2010, so it was like 2015 maybe, I don't remember, and it was 2013. Ben Affleck, Justin Timberlake, and I was like, this looks okay, let's go see it, and I made a very bad choice. It was just very boring, and I remember disliking that one. But one of the ones that I really, really hyped up for myself and then walked in and was like, this looks great, like the first 10 minutes, and then it just slowly got crappy, was Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets that Luc Besson did a few years ago. Dane DeHaan, who was in Chronicle, he was in A Cure for Wellness, that was a pretty good flick. And then Cara Delevingne, who's on that Carnival Row show with Orlando Bloom right now on Amazon, and she was in the Suicide Squad movie. It was... Luc Besson has made some very meh movies ever since Fifth Element happened. With the exception, I hear, of this movie he did with Scarlett Johansson called Lucy. And I haven't seen that one. But I was really looking forward to Valerian, because what he said was that it was this French comic book that turned into a graphic novel, and the art for it was brilliant, and it looked like the space epic that, like, you know how people compared Avatar to, like, copying Star Wars and all that? I feel like Valerian had some elements, because it was a 50s comic book, that had some elements that maybe Star Wars took, like the space. It was almost like a space Indiana Jones almost.
Yeah.
And I was really excited for it. And he said that it really inspired The Fifth Element. When he wanted to do Valerian when he did Fifth Element, and the studio said, no, nobody's ready for that. Let's do this Fifth Element one, and they did that. And so years later, when CGI upgrade, he was like, I think we should do it now. Now's the time. And unfortunately, I just feel that the cast that he chose just didn't hold the movie that he was. It felt like a 12-year-old. It felt like a 12-year-old who was starting puberty made this movie because of just the dialogue between Dane DeHaan's Valerian, and I can't remember her name. It was so elementary.
Cara
Delevingne. I can't remember her character's name.
Oh yeah.
But it was very elementary, and the first 10 minutes was really good because it looks like it was building this world for us, and that was so great. And then they showed up, and it was like, oh no.
It was very. I remember watching it and just like, it was mediocre. I thought like
I wanted to like it.
It looked. I was like, oh man, this is gonna based on like the CGI and everything. I was like, man, this is gonna look like a really awesome movie. And I just felt underwhelmed. I left and I went, that was something.
Yeah, I built it up for myself, like reading it, because I was watching behind the scene things, and he was doing little tidbits on like IMDb and HBO and his own Facebook, I think, showing you going into what this is going to be like, and then you saw the final product, and you're like, oh man, this isn't good. I was so upset. I really wanted to like it, and I appreciate what he was trying to do, but the delivery was just he missed. He missed it. So it could have been so much better, and I wanted it to be, and I wanted it to become, because it was a comic series.
Yeah.
I was hoping it would do well enough to become a film series, and don't do it. I'm sorry, Luc Besson. You've done some great things. I just don't do it.
I honestly don't know what's worse. Like,
just stick with your multipass.
I don't know what's worse. Going into a movie anticipating for it to be great and it sucks, or going into a movie and then like, oh, this is actually pretty good, and then the end just, you're like, what happened?
I was like that with Ender's Game.
I was like that with Passengers with
my wife and I just talked about that movie the other day.
Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. At the end, I just went, what? Hello? That's it?
One of the managers at my old theater quality checked it, because as projectionists we tend to pre-watch the movies, A, because we love movies, and B, we're making sure that the film is good for the public when it releases in the next day or two. And he quality checked it and said he wishes he could take those 2 hours back, or hour and a half, or however long the movie was. And because of that, I did not watch it. My wife saw it a month or two ago on streaming, and pretty much, not exactly the same words, but said pretty much the same thing. So I have purposely avoided it because I feel that
it started enough. I was like, I'm getting like a like The Shining in space kind of feel, like
cabin fever.
He's like isolated, cabin fever. He breaks out this girl and all this stuff, and then it started ending, and then it ended, and I went, oh.
I heard it was predictable and creepy and very. It touches things that it shouldn't.
I just remember leaving, going, well, that was. Meh.
Yeah, exactly, and it looked kind of Shining.
And I didn't expect to leave it like some movie like Inception. I left that movie and I didn't say anything. Got in my car, didn't turn on the radio, drove home, sat down in my bed and went,
whoa,
wow, what just happened? Like, just blown away. That I went, wait, what? I literally just went, what just happened? And I've done. There's been a couple movies where I just go, what? At the end of the movie, I just am so lost and confused, and I can't remember any of the movies. But I just remember there was one movie I was at. Don't remember the name, but at the end of the movie, it stopped, and I just went, what? And everybody started laughing, because it was just like, there's some movies that they're like start off good, and they're like, okay, this is going to be a pretty good movie. And then it ends, and you go, why? Why was that the choice? Why did you do that?
Ender's Game was one of those movies for me. When they did it, Butterfield, the Asia Butterfield kid, he was in Hugo. Very good movie. I hype that movie every time I get a chance to mention it. He's a great actor. Harrison Ford's in it. Ben Kingsley. I was like, this cast is great. Haley Steinfeld, I think, is in it. And it looked like it was supposed to be this, really cool, young teen novel turned movie that is going to be like the next Hunger Games that, when it first came out, that blew everyone away. And the ending was so anticlimactic. And I hear that the book version was a lot more climactic, like a lot more, the way it was portrayed in the novel, it was much more visceral and it jumped out at you. And then you watch it, the way they filmed it and the way they showcased it, it was like, all right, you're going to do this final test, and once you pass this, you're going to be able to go to war for us. And then the test was actually the war, and you don't find out until after. Like, he just, like, decimated this entire race almost, I think. I could be butchering this a little bit because it's been a while. I haven't seen it since the theater because I was so disappointed. And he takes out this race, and they're like, all right, you passed the test. Great, now when's the war? That was it. And just the way it happened, you're like, so you're building him up to do the next thing, and then it's like, you pass the test, and that's it. Awesome. Now what? Oh, no, that was it. And I was just like, what? No! This is stupid! And I have never gotten, like, mad at an ending before like that. And that just, no! How dare you? And I think I was just like, oh, this sucks, man. Come on.
And at that point, it's too late to get a refund. You're like,
no, that, I just, like, said, no, I'm never seeing that again. The movie wasn't like the best movie, but I was entertained enough to be enjoying it at the time, and then that happened, and I was like, that's so dumb. I'm done.
That's the opposite of a cliffhanger where you're like, no, I want more. You're like, no, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, I was ready for him to go to war, and he was just standing at this like control panel, like telling people what to do and controlling. That was like Halo Wars in a movie, and he was like. Man. This real-time strategy, like, showcasing where everybody was going, and then, meh. I was like, that's it? That's all you got? Come on. Could have done so much better. We could have done so much better with this. But, of course, they're adapting a book that I haven't read, but I did, like, the Cliff Notes afterwards to see if it sucked as much, and it sounded much better in the book.
Yeah.
So, I have quite a few movies that disappointed me, and I'm sure as I bring that question up in future episodes, more will come to me, or more I've seen since, and I'll be like, hey, I've got another one that I just watched the other day that was, oh my god. So, we'll see. But Gabe, thanks for coming on and doing a couple episodes of the Great Movie Radio Water Park and Tiki Bar and mini golf course.
Mini golf.
And snowboarding Globetarian. That was another word I just made up.
Brought to you by Doug Dimmadome.
Doug
Dimmadome.
Well, thanks for listening to us, folks. If you are new to the podcast, check out our older episodes. They're pretty great. We've had some great movie writers with us. Gabe, my old friend Tracy, one of my good friends who didn't work at Movie Ride, Joe, he's been on. We're going to have some more people on from the ride, and some who've not worked it but are huge fans of it in future episodes. Check us out on YouTube. We've also got social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we've got a new TeePublic site where you can buy shirts and mugs and just a bunch of cool things to help support us and help us do some cool things with the podcast. We'll see you next time here on the Great Movie Radio Show.
The Great Movie Radio Show is recorded in Orlando, Florida. You can visit our website at www.thegmrshow.com. Art direction and logo design provided by Mr. Bayless. Voiceover and intro work provided by Dave Fesky and Joe Erickson. You can find our podcast on multiple platforms such as Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many more. Music provided by the YouTube Audio Library. You can find us on Facebook, and Instagram. Just search The Great Movie Radio Show or The GMR Show. This has been The Great Movie Radio Show. We hope you enjoy your day, and we'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of. Goodbye, everyone.
You have been listening to a GMR radio production.